Okay, we are live.
I am not going to check whether or not we're live.
That's fine. I realized I was being stupid last time. Well, it's just, yep, okay. So being stupid last time. We can just go. If we really want to check, we can just wait a minute. We can just go to our own thing, and boom, we're live right there. So, all right. So I think there's actually a. Oh, who cares? Whatever. All right. So I'm gonna post this in the Discord server, and that'll be that. Okay, we're good now. All right. There's the chat. Okay. Just make sure the chat is working. Oh, good, the chat is working. Austin sees us, and we see Austin. All right, good shit. Yeah. Okay.
Week 2.
Yes, week 2. Okay,
The week after week 1.
Is that how numbers work?
And, little known fact, also before week 3.
I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm not totally sure that's correct, but yeah, we'll see when we get to the week after this one. Then we'll find out.
Still early in the season.
Yes, quite early. I mean,
But we're starting to see...
We got 9 weeks.
Yeah, we're starting to see some teams pull away from the pack a little bit. Getting some good starts.
A little bit. You said last time we had to overreact to everything.
Yeah.
This time it's not quite that much. We're still overreacting like a little bit.
Yeah.
But the reactions get more and more reasonable as we go. This is the third most useless power rankings all season. We're gonna stop saying that eventually, or we're not.
We're not. Maybe power rankings completely are useless, but they get you guys to be invested. So that's what matters.
Yeah. Yes, Dina, it is rigged. Yes, that's correct. Everything is rigged. Everything we do in this league is rigged. The draft order was rigged. What else did we do? The schedule is rigged. Yeah. That's why we lost twice. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to give other people a chance. All right. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. This is Season 5, Week 2 Power Rankings for the Multi-Battle Conference. Wait. Boom. There we go. Okay. So, Week 2 results. Ben says, I refuse to admit these matter until we win a game. No, they're useless forever. Until we win a game. Anyway, these are our results for week 2. As you can see, there is a green check mark by our winners once again. We're gonna we got the Milotic there. Milotic put in a little bit of work this past week at least. Okay, so we're gonna start with the Sword Division matches. First, the Sadistic Seniors versus the Rainbow Raiders. This was one of our first matches that was played this past week. This was it was kind of a ridiculous blowout. From the seniors side, we got to see a number of things. First of all, the Dynamax Starmie. Oh my God, yes! Thank God, I've been waiting to see that thing max, and I did good. I picked up 2 KOs while it was max. It killed the Togekiss and it killed the Berserker. Pretty good. I don't know how much the Talonflames now the Ally Switch spammers, but last season the Talonflames. I don't know how much use they actually got out of it, but they never maxed it. That's for sure. Yeah.
They brought it a few times.
And, God, with all the threats on the seniors team, like, the thing to max is Starmie. Like, I get it, at least, in the matchup against Colossal, but, like, they did that and Colossal wasn't even on the field and it still worked.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And they did a pretty good job of protecting it. Like, they just straight maxed in front of the Grookey, and they switched in the Clefairy on the same turn, or Thwackey, yes. I always always mix up those two. But yeah, they switched in the Clefairy on the same turn just in case it was going to take a Grassy Glide for the Friend Guard boost there. So that was nice. And then again, something else on the senior side that we touched on last time. It's just a revolving door of giant threats. Every single time a new Mon came out, what's going on, Alan? How you doing? Every single time a new Pokemon came out from the seniors side was just, oh shit, we got to deal with that now. It was something threatening a lot of damage. And that's why we gave them that huge threat level grade. I mean, it's just crazy, and they just put on so much pressure the whole time. And the only Mon they lost in this match was Clefairy, which is the thing you're supposed to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming out from the Raiders side, I think the Raiders had a pretty good showing last week. With this week, I'm not really clear on what their game plan was supposed to be. It didn't, like, the Togekiss kind of went down for free. It didn't really. They weren't getting any damage off while it was taking attacks and just redirecting attacks, and I mean, I think the seniors were targeting it anyway, so the redirection didn't even matter. I could be wrong on that, but and so the redirection wasn't even really worth it. You lose your S tier just clicking follow me and not really getting any damage off next to it, and then on top of that, they kind of they couldn't really get in good position to actually max anything for a good while. There was a point at which they, I think, had the opportunity to max the Inteleon, but the Dracozolt was on the field just putting down too much pressure, and I think the Clefairy was next to it, so they couldn't just max Hailstorm it to get rid of it. And then they ended up maxing Colossal when it was much too late.
Pretty much over, yeah.
Yeah. Which was kind of unfortunate to see. But on top of that, like, they just I didn't really see them positioning very, very well or getting good damage off. Like, they left the Clefairy just sitting out there, and they clicked, especially on the Grookey, they just kind of clicked Worry Seed and Fake Out a couple of times when they should have just been, like, putting down Grassy Glide pressure the whole time. Yeah, it's not going to KO the Clefairy in one hit, but, like, you need damage on that thing. You need to get rid of it so that you can actually start damaging their threats. And they killed the Clefairy, but it was way too late.
I question the Worry Seeds, too.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't know how good Worry Seed was in this matchup. Most of what you're hitting Worry Seed with is just you're getting rid of. It's basically just damage mitigation, like sheer force on Darmanitan, or hustle on Dracozolt, or adaptability on Porygons.
They were a friend guard on Clefairy, but it was just we talked about it too. They helped the Dracozolt.
Oh yeah,
Inteleon out.
Yeah. Right, yeah, they actually they got rid of hustle. And Dracozolt just had a free hit on Inteleon. It couldn't even miss anymore because it didn't have hustle, and it's gonna KO either way. Inteleon's frail as shit. So, it was the Worry Seed was, you were just kind of wasting turns where you needed to be getting damage off.
Yeah.
And the getting rid of those abilities honestly wasn't really worth it anyway. If you were gonna play that kind of damage mitigation game, honestly, just like set up screens with Togekiss, or it's going to be a lot. That's going to be a much better idea, especially if you're going with a more support oriented Togekiss anyway. So, was sort of not really sure what the Raiders were doing. It felt a little bit like their team was falling apart, and the seniors threats just kept hitting the field. Clefairy kept them healthy, and that was that. Even though it missed like 4 sings, but I mean, that just goes to show how little the Raiders were doing, because they weren't even clicking follow me on the Clefairy most of the time. They were just letting it sit there clicking sing, and it was putting on pressure because it could have hit at any time. But those were 4 turns where Clefairy was just dead, wasn't doing anything, and they still pulled out like a 5-0 or a 5-1 victory. I don't remember if it went to time, but yeah, they still had 5 Mons left at the end. So, yeah, really dominant win by the seniors there.
Next, we have the in sword division. We have the Potatoes versus the Mudkips. Actually, one of our more hype matchups that we were pretty excited about this week was was the Potatoes, just to see, because they had just lost to a good team in Doesnt Click, and they put up a very good fight against them as well, and the Mudkips as well. Put up a good fight against Team Pussy, and it was going to be interesting to see these two teams who have the potential to be playoff teams and possibly even making deep runs in the playoffs go against each other this early in the year. It was a little bit interesting because pretty much right away the Census Scorch just came out and stayed out on the field. There wasn't a lot that the Mudkips could do. They did Dynamax the Primarina, which we're assuming they messed up on one of their sets and didn't bring the water type move. They had a Hyper Voice on there. I believe it was Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, Protect.
No, they were Assault Vests, so they had Moonblast.
It was Moonblast. You're right.
An Energy Ball and the
Shadow Ball and then Hyper Voice.
Spook Ball if we're using the German version.
So no water move. So they actually had nothing to hit the Census Scorch with. Also, the pretty much nothing on their team gets rock type coverage either. I think you had pointed that out earlier.
Yeah, it's like you would think, if you're not super familiar with Glastrier's move pool, you would think like, oh well, it gets stuff like Close Combat and Heavy Slam and High Horsepower. A lot of stuff that gets that also gets Rock Slide and Stone Edge. It doesn't.
Yeah.
No Rock Slide, no Stone Edge, no rock moves of any kind. I think the only access to rock moves they have is like a Rock Tomb on Scrafty, which is a little bit obscure. It's a weak move. Scrafty's base attack is not very high, so you're not doing. You're probably not going to kill that thing anyway, especially if it's coiling. It's a little rough. The Census Scorch.
Good prep on their end, honestly, because they supported it very well. Census Scorch, I think, ended up getting 5 of the kills total.
Yeah.
And it put them in a really tough position to do anything, especially because Glacier typically is the one that wants to max, but they forced the Primarina to max, and then on top of that, they didn't have a water type move to really counter it. It was tough for the Mudkips. Honestly, it was overall a lot of really good plays, and the Mudkips kind of out of character, but making some questionable decisions overall during the game, particularly like with the set with the Primarina and. I think one of the other things too is they went for a crunch on the Latios, and I understand, or Latios, I believe it was. Yeah. I understand that it was like at 50% or under 50% at that point, so they didn't want the risk to miss the Icicle Crash.
Yeah.
But I think you have to anticipate recover there. You know that you're going to be the slowest thing. You've got to make sure you get it, and that allowed us to kind of stay out there and continue to provide decent support.
Right.
So ultimately, I think it was just a really good game by the Potatoes. I don't even think they had to show Metagross. They had to do any of these things.
No, Metagross came out.
Did it
at the very end? Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't get a kill, but like it was there. I think it's also worth mentioning that they did have a genning error. And I don't think they realized that until they got into the battle, because they led with the Rotom Heat and the Riolu. I think they were trying to go for Nasty Plot Follow Me, which would have put him in a better position. But they realized they ended up with Trick instead of the Nasty Plot there. So not ideal. But I guess. This game sort of, I think the Mudkips learned lessons, which can translate into some public service announcements for all players watching and listening. Number one, check your Mons before you go into the battle. I don't care if you gen them yourself. I don't care if you bred them and hyper train them or whatever. I don't care. If you're using the bot or you've got a hack switch and you're using PK Hex all yourself, whatever you're doing, check your Mons before you get into the battle. Make sure you've got the right ability and moves and items and even your EV spreads. I mean,
if you're on PK Hex, set. Right click, set.
To be extra safe, set, click something else and click view, then go back to the thing you were just editing and then click view again to make sure everything...
We called that a 3-point test.
Yeah. Yeah. Check your shit, man.
Yeah.
I've heard of this happening a lot. I check my stuff all the time. Never had a problem. So make sure you do that. And then the second one is just Liquid Voice Hyper Voice does not give you Max Geyser, which they know now.
That's why people were running Hydro Cannon for a little bit, right?
Exactly. That, and it gives you a more powerful Max Geyser than you would otherwise get from something like Scald. So, that's a pretty common thing to do on Primarina. So, the combination of Hydro Cannon and the Hyper Voice, because it essentially how it works is the Hyper Voice turns into a completely separate move. It becomes Max Strike, and it works with stuff like Pixelate, because Pixelate just takes any normal type move and turns it into Fairy. It just takes the Max Strike and registers it as a normal move. Boom, Fairy type. When the Liquid Voice checks for a sound-based move on Max Strike.
Max Strike doesn't check that box.
It does not. It's a completely separate move. It's a lot like when people were asking in 2019, like, if I use Dark Z with Yveltal's Foul Play, does it use the opponent's attack stat? No, man. It turns into a completely different move. It's Black Hole Eclipse. It's no longer Foul Play.
Yeah.
Good thing to know about max moves in general. So
Dina says we're pro hackers. You are correct. That is why we won the league. Because we checked our Pokemon. We know how to gen.
Been hacking my shit since 2014. Never looked back. Okay.
Obviously, have never taken them to official tournaments before. I would never do that.
I would also never bring them online because that is against TOS.
No, you're not allowed to bring them online, and I do not do that either. But for leagues, it gets done.
Anyway, are we done with that one?
I think we're done with that one.
Okay, so Wet and Wild Wailords versus the Dark Web Porygons. Max Airstream onto the Tapu Bulu, which was on the same side as the Bronzong. They ended up getting a crit, which I don't think ended up mattering because they were going for Ice Beam into it anyway, and the Politoed was getting a speed boost from the Airstream, so it was probably going to be outspeeding the Bulu anyway. Unless the Bulu was like scarfed or something, but I think they would have mentioned that in chat afterward if that was the case. So I don't think that was the case. So the crit didn't really matter. A little bit of chip on Incineroar from the Ice Beam, so the Ice Beam redirection didn't really matter. But yeah, they picked up 2 really good KOs, and the Nihilego was the only thing left out on that side. They ended up going for a Geyser into the Incineroar instead on their final turn of Max. Now, that kind of makes sense if you think Nihilego's going to protect, which it did. But I think that one mistargeting there kind of caused them to throw the game. Because even double intimidated, if you're in rain, hitting into the Nihilego, into the protect, it has such shit defense that I actually calced this. It's even at -2 that Max Geyser in rain from a Life Orb Barraskewda is doing more than half to Nihilego, and it just skated by that turn with full HP, and then it was allowed to max. And based on the Weather Ball damage, I realized that was a crit. But the Weather Ball damage from Politoed, if that had been normal damage, not even a crit, it would still be enough to KO the Dynamax Nihilego after taking that damage from the Geyser through Protect. So and that was the last Pokemon on that side, and it was a big offensive threat against a lot of the stuff that the Porygons had. So I think not hitting into it was a big mistake, because they could have easily just taken it out, and I think they actually win if they target the Nihilego there and make sure it dies.
Something that you only think about, right? You're always like, well, I want to get the maximum damage out from this move, So if I predict the protect here, like 99% of the time in any situation, you're absolutely making the best shot by going for the Pokemon that you're predicting isn't going to protect. But you're right. In that case, the little bit of chip damage that they would have got right there, I mean, they got it down to about about 40%.
From
When it was Dynamax to ultimately when it came back out on the field, it was at about 40%. That would have been enough.
You mean after the Weather Ball damage from the that 30%. That Weather Ball was a crit, but I mean I think the Max Geyser through Protect plus a non-crit Weather Ball onto Dynamax Nihilego that would have picked it up.
Yeah.
And we know that the Politoed was faster than the Nihilego because of the Airstream boost. We saw that. So would have been a great way to completely neutralize that. I think that's another thing that you really have to pay attention to in multi battles. If you can really target down one side, you probably should, and that's a situation where they definitely should have. And at that point, it would have been like I'm not even sure if they had lost a Mon yet, but maybe they did one.
I don't think they did.
It would have been like 5 or 6 Mons versus 3 all on one side, and at that point, like, what are the Wailords going to do?
Yeah, and they were basically able to protect, so that way they can wait for the Dynamax.
Okay, we are live once again. Sorry about that, guys. We just had some technical difficulties there. A little bit of internet issues. The stream cut out. This will be part 2 of the stream. Hopefully later on, probably tomorrow, I'll be able to just download these and splice them together. At which point, I will once again, just like last time, upload a full version of the stream. All put together. Thank you, Tina. Tina has posted a link to our current stream in the chat, so we can just go right back here. So we pretty much finished up with the Wailords and the Porygons. We kind of talked about the whole Dynamax targeting thing with the Barraskewda. Nihilego maxed, took a bunch of KOs, and Flygon pretty much cleaned up for the Wailords. So that was that. Moving on to our 4th match.
The SoCal Cheek Drillers versus us, the Amoonguss Burnouts. The Cheek Drillers had a 3-2 victory against us. The game went to time again for us. Ultimately, it was actually a really good battle to just be a part of. We've played with them a few times before. We kind of understand, like, you know, we got the flow of the game pretty quickly here. We were trying to make calls. So they went for a U-turn or a X-Caesar into a what was it? The Keldeo slot.
Keldeo,
yeah, predicting the Zarude switch in, and we ended up going for Copperajah.
We almost switched it in.
Yeah, we really did. And there was a few other times, like we went for a play rough into the Rotom Mo because we figured we were gonna try and get a KO, but just in case the Surfetch switched in as well, we wanted to catch that. It was just they snarled a couple times, expecting us to switch back into Keldeo. Overall, just a really good game. They thought we were going to go for a Mew setup Dynamax, and we actually had like a more supportive set. We only revealed Charm and Taunt. They went for an Armaldo Dynamax right off the bat with the Choice Scarf Rotom Mo. Ultimately, man, it was just an awesome set to play in.
There was a lot of back and forth.
Lots of switching. We got Trick Room set up, and we kind of got a few kills with the Copperajah.
Yep.
We were able to eventually kind of work a win condition in our favor, but ultimately
there just wasn't enough time.
So they were able to end up taking the victory overall, 3-2. But fantastic game from both of us. I not trying to toot our own horn. I mean, they prepped very well. We were able to respond pretty well. They were able to just ultimately, come out on top. So a really great game from Hector and Allan there. So they ended up taking that one, and now 2-0. So good, congrats to them, honestly.
Yeah, they we didn't expect the Armaldo at all.
No.
But we once we saw that it was their lead in the Dynamax slot, we figured, oh, okay, so they're probably using this to just get rid of Mew right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we were able to neuter the Dynamax pretty well. There was a lot of positioning after that, and we just couldn't find a spot to actually Dynamax effectively. What we decided to do was we had the max slot and we had 2 turns of Trick Room left with the Copperajah, so we actually protected. And then the last turn of Trick Room, we went for the Play Rough on the Surfetch, knowing that the Arcanine was going to kill us with Flare Blitz. And then we had Keldeo come out. Trick Room ended. Max Slot went into Keldeo. We were able to max Geyser, but that was the last turn of the game.
Yep.
And it ended 3-2. And they just protected Arcanine, make sure it didn't die, and that was it. They had 3 left. We had 2. So, yeah. Good game all around. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to play out the rest of it. But
do you want to pull the chat up because we actually don't have
it? You are correct.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
All right.
Oh yeah. Okay. Moving on to. Did you have anything else to say about that
Nope.
match? Okay. Dina, can you say something in chat real quick just to make sure we're good here? Okay. So. Yes, Shield Division. Moving on to Shield Division. Our first match is New England Patrats versus the Regigeezers. This one was pretty straightforward. It was pretty... Thank you, Dina. It was pretty similar to what we saw from the Patrats last time, except actually worse for them. The Geezers just went for their beat-up stuff. They led with the Persian Cobalion. They got the beat-up off pretty early. And it was a little bit precarious in the first couple of turns. They were trying to figure out which Pokemon to target. You know, do we Airstream the Urshifu? Do we Rockfall the Thundurus? Because of course the Patrats did lead with those 2 again, as you'd expect them to most of the time. But they got through it without losing them on. They were able to blow through the Urshifu and Thundurus, and once they got through those, the Patrats just had nothing left to handle what the Geezers had. I think they ended up going for a parting shot out into Volcanion, and so those 3 Pokemon were the only ones that actually hit the field the whole game, and the boosted Cobalion was just able to blow through everything. They ended up winning 6-0. So not really too surprising once they were able to effectively break through that lead, because like we said the last week and in our initial draft analysis, Patrats just don't really have much beyond that. So yeah, not super surprising. I think we expected the Geezers to take that one. And
yeah.
Next
was the Platinum Pixies versus St. Louis Bulus. The Pixies ended up coming out on top on this one. Actually came down to a couple of pretty good. It was a pretty good game, honestly. I felt went back and forth a little bit. You know.
Yeah, it was good, but it was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah. So, Crobat had a couple of blind hypnosis that it hit. I saw the St. Louis Bulus. They were talking about it a little bit. I personally don't. I know that the first hypnosis was kind of, you know, messed up or whatever, but they went for a follow me that term. They said that they got 2 3-turn sleeps. They actually only got a 1 2-turn sleep and 1 3-turn sleep. Yeah. I believe the Runerigus woke up in 2 turns.
Reuniclus
woke up in Runerigus. They got me with a Rennie. That's what it is.
It's called Reuniclus, Ryan.
The Reuniclus woke up in 2 turns, but one of the things that happened was that one of the chances that they had to Dynamax, they chose not to Dynamax. They ended up Psyshocking into the Protect on the Crobat, and the Protect on the Beware.
Yeah.
And the Crobat actually used Super Fang on it and brought it down to half health. And then right after that, the Klefki was able to set up Light Screen in one of the other opportunities that it had to Dynamax as well. After obviously the hypnosis as well. So I think that while they did have a little bit of luck, the Milotic maxing was one of the key things for them. That's why we have it here, obviously. It put in so much work. It was behind the light screen. I don't know how much the sleep turns matter too much on there, particularly because all it really helped them do is make it out of Trick Room, and the Reuniclus wasn't going to be putting out as much damage as I think it was, because the light screen was definitely going to be able to get set up. The Klefki was in a position to where it was just going to be able to get it with Prankster up no matter what. And they would have had a Dynamax at half health, essentially. So that wasn't going to be an ideal position for them regardless. And even then, the Milotic behind the light screen, I'm sure if they had an opportunity to max it in front of the Reuniclus because they knew that they could take damage, they probably would have done it quicker. But it was obvious that it was part of the plan late into the game that Milotic was going to have to be the one to Dynamax. I think it helped a lot. It was a good call because it was able to put down a lot of pressure. I think I was able to get one coil up, and then after that, with Marvel Scale, one coil, geez, it just...
I think actually the combination of coil and Marvel Scale might have been even more significant than the Dynamax, because we saw the Rillaboom go for a glide into the Milotic after it had those defense boosts up, and God, it just did nothing.
Nothing. And it was in terrain, it wasn't intimidated, it just had everything going for it, and it just still did, like, I don't know, Dynamax maybe like 15-20%, to the total Dynamax damage.
Milotic wasn't even maxed.
Are you sure? I thought it was maxed.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I mean, we could pull it up if we really want to.
Yeah, it's not, but...
Yeah, but it's... I think the sleep turns were pretty significant. What they really allowed the Pixies to do was ride out Trick Room and, more importantly, I think, position themselves well with the Milotic. That's what it allowed them to do. The Milotic positioning was really big.
Because for the record, too, what essentially the third sleep turn that the Togetic had, if it woke up on that turn, it was just going to follow me away a Hypnosis, which would have landed on it and put it to sleep. So, well, the Reuniclus was still at half health and still needed to turn to wait for the Dynamax to go to it, and the light screen was still going to get set up. So, like I said, even if they get a knockout there, the Milotic comes in for free. It probably goes, okay, cool, now we're going to Dynamax too. And then I think that the battle still turns out still being the same way. Because the first sleep turn probably was the more devastating of the two, if I were to be completely honest, because they were able to kind of put the pressure down with the Super Fang on there, and had the Togetic woke up. I mean, granted, it was only the first turn of sleep, so like it had no chance to wake up on that turn. But being able to redirect that Super Fang and then have the Dynamax go into that slot, they're definitely not thinking about it, because that's what happened. They thought about it. They went for the Psyshock into the Protect on the Beware, and then they had to wait 2 turns for it to come back again.
Yeah. And
by that time, they were asleep again. So I think that's really what kind of killed them on it. So.
How you doing, Hunter? It was the sleep turns were a little bit rough. There was a couple of positioning things they could have done there. Even a little bit later, I mean, we saw that the Genesect was able to just bug buzz the Rillaboom down, and I think that if they
that was a huge trade.
They explained why they didn't want to sack the Togetic there, and I honestly don't remember off the top of my head what they said right now, but I remember thinking that it at least made sense. So take that for what it's worth.
I thought the Genesect went down that turn from a fire move.
It did. It did.
From what, though?
Max Flare Heatran.
Okay.
So, I think that was their one shot to win if they hard predicted that Genesect to go for the Bug Buzz. And then they preserved the Rillaboom. Genesect was gone. They got to bring the Rillaboom back out against the Milotic. Now, we did see that it was really not doing that much damage to the Milotic. But so
more damage than anything else on the team was going to do.
Right. It was their best shot. It was their best shot.
So I think that trade just turned out so well for the Pixies because it kind of solidified Milotic Swing condition right there.
Yeah, that was when the game was like 100% over.
Yeah.
When the Rillaboom went down, I think.
So, okay, so next, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, moving on. We've got the Mats versus the Jurors. Hunter says he's doing good. We're doing good as well. Hope you're having a good night. All right, so the Mats versus the Jurors. This was a really good game. The Mats, of course, won, but again, the Jurors taking a loss, but also having a really, really good match. This one, I think, they did even better than they did last week. Mm-hmm. It started off with with a huge bang, or rather 3 huge bangs. They went for Brutal Swing from the Raichu into the Weakness Policy Dynamax Victini, and oh my god, the Victini just went for a Max Flare, boom, Electivire dead. Another Max Flare, boom, Indeedee dead. Max Psychic, boom, Gengar dead. Unfortunately, the momentum shifted after that because when the Indeedee went down, they were able to redirect. That's why the Indeedee went down, and then the Kartana set up a Tailwind, which allowed them to allow the Kartana and the Regidrago to really just take over. Because they had pretty decent terrain control with the max overgrowths because they maxed the Kartana, and the Regidrago was just in Tailwind with that Dragon Fang boosted Dragon Energy. Oh my god, it just does so much damage. That was, oh god,
that's
it's
the kind of multi-battle I
insane.
like seeing right there. Just tons of offense, 2 heavyweight teams just punching each other until one of them gets knocked out, and that's essentially what we saw there. Was the threats coming out full force and doing everything they can, and then we had the game we had. It was a fantastic game, though. It really was.
Yeah, I definitely recommend you guys watch that one. It is not uploaded on Dina's channel yet. She's we'll probably get that one uploaded tomorrow. It is watchable as a VOD on Vishy's Twitch channel.
Yes, which we linked in the description.
Oh yeah, we should have mentioned that. We are linking all of our matches from this week that we're talking about now in the description of this stream. I'm pretty sure that carried over from.
So ultimately, one of the things too is that game, the Matt Alcinas versus the Jurors. I hate to say it came down to this, but it may have came down to a Focus Blast miss.
I think there were 2 big opportunities for the Jurors to win. One of them was that. One of them was if that Focus Blast hits the Kartana, Kartana absolutely goes down. That actually one-shots the Dynamax Kartana if it's at full HP. And it took some damage from the Electro Web early on.
Oh, I think it was like at...
It was at about 70 or 80.
70% yeah. So it would have done...
Easy KO if it hit. And if it did hit, then that would allow Tapu Fini to just do whatever it wanted.
Yeah, because that side would have been completely taken care of, and then it was just Regidrago, and I don't think they had revealed the other one yet, had they?
Not yet, but it was the Glaceon.
Yeah, it was Glaceon at the time, yeah. So it would have been close, I think.
Right. They would have just had to pick off the Glaceon and then just ignore ignore the Regi, and then Tapu Fini can just...
Because the Regidrago didn't have anything that could hit.
It only had Dragon moves.
Had Dragon moves, so yeah. So essentially came down to just a couple of things there. You said one more thing besides Focus Blast?
The other one was if they had, on their 3rd turn of Victini's Dynamax, if they had gone for Max Flare into the Kartana instead of Max Psychic into the Gengar, I think that also wins them the game. Yeah. Because I think they'll have a better opportunity to take out the Gengar later on as well, especially since they were carrying Shadow Ball on the Assault Vest Dragalge. Because the Kartana was just what really fucked him up really bad. That was what gave him terrain control, so that Regidrago could just do whatever it wanted to do without having to worry about half damage from the Misty Terrain. So that combination of the Kartana and the Regi really just went in.
Yeah, definitely. So really good game though. And then the next one was Team Pussy versus Doesnt Click. This game was interesting. It ended up 5-1 going to Team Pussy, but man, it went back and forth for a really long time, and ultimately it just came down to Team Pussy just playing well. I mean, I think they ended up with what was the lead? The bunny. I always forget its name.
Diggersby. Diggersby Togedemaru.
Yeah, Diggersby Togedemaru versus Urshifu and Dragapult. And we got to see some interesting stuff just overall. I think the best was the Cutsat Berry Togedemaru with Sturdy, and then it was able to
Cutsat Berry Endeavor at 1 HP.
At 1 HP for the Toxtricity.
And then the Toxtricity was Life Orb, and because the Togedemaru was Sturdy instead of Lightning Rod, the Overdrive still did damage to it while the other thing protected.
Yeah.
And then it died to Life Orb.
Yeah.
That was, oh my god.
It was crazy. It was such a crazy game, and one of the things, I think by turn 3, like I said, it was Diggersby and Togedemaru versus Urshifu and Dragapult. And I think by the end of turn 3, it was Seismitoad. Oh man, I'm blanking right now. But it was completely different Pokemon. Mantine, yeah. Mantine, Celesteela, Seismitoad, and something else. It was by turn 3. But ultimately a pretty stally game. I told Matt probably the best use of defense to win a game that I've seen, because a lot of times most of these defensive games are so passive that you're stopping your opponent from doing any major damage to you, but you're not really doing anything back. And they had a combination of essentially Celesteela and Mantine, and they just could not could not break through that. They had Max the Escavalier could only really hit the Celesteela with a Max Razor Shell or a Max Geyser.
Yeah.
They just really couldn't do anything to those two Pokemon, and they just kind of cleaned up, by doing Air Slash. They got the Celesteela got an Air Slash KO onto the Urshifu.
They really used their own Trick Room against them.
Yeah.
And I don't really fault Doesn't Click for clicking the Trick Room there. Mm-hmm. Maybe it would have been better to just Thunderbolt into the Mantine, but then your Escavalier is even more useless, and you didn't want to switch in the Urshifu when just to take the Sludge Bomb from the Aromatisse, because the Urshifu is a big part of your offense, but then Trick Room was up, and it just took an Air Slash and went down. And the Trick Room wasn't even good for them anyway, because the Escavalier, despite all the good coverage it gets, if your Escavalier is sitting in front of two flying types that both resist Steel, which we're talking about Celesteela and Mantine here, you can't break through that with the coverage that the Escavalier has. It was forced to go, the most amount of damage it could go for was Geyser into the Celesteela, which we saw wasn't even really doing that much.
Yeah, and then the Celesteela had your classic leftover Leech Seed recovery stuff, and with Protect, and was just able to kind of stall and get its health back. Honestly, just a really good game by Team Pussy. Once they positioned the Mantine and the Celesteela and set that up in front of them, it was just a wall that was also putting out just enough amounts of damage to put them into chip damage range. Or Celesteela got a few KOs. I think he ended up getting 3 KOs. Was at +3 defense.
Something like that, 2 or 3 KOs.
Yeah, and then they had Toxic too, I believe, on the Mantine. Was it?
Oh yeah.
So they absolutely were ready to go into this stall the game type mode from the jump. And I mean 5-1, that's a dominant showing, even though it took a long time to kind of get there. Just really good defensive play with a little bit of mix of offense as well, and they were able to get a 5-1. Probably one of the better defensive games I've seen in this league, just in all time.
Yeah, they
especially
really
since the timer, the implementation of the timer.
Right, and they just didn't let Doesn't Click get going at all. Mm-hmm. I do wonder what kind of their game plan was here, since they didn't seem to be able to break through what Team Pussy had. I wonder if a more offensive Dragapult might have been the answer, a Dynamax Dragapult, because we saw that it was
a light clay.
It was light clay, so yeah, I don't think we saw a lot of moves from it, but you know, you put a light clay on Dragapult, that's probably not your max option. All right, so that's going to be all of our week 2 games. We went into kind of a lot of detail there, so we're probably not going to spend too much time on the actual rankings here, but let's move into those right now. Okay, so
we'll
here
fly through them real quick.
Yeah, we've got 2 through 18. Starting down here, number 18 with the Patrats. They were here last time. They lost 0-6 this week, so really can't do anything more with the Patrats. They're down here at 18. That's kind of how the cookie crumbles.
At 17, we have the Porygons. They moved down 1 spot. You know, they're 0-2 right now. Not necessarily an indication on their team overall. It's still early in the year, but you know, trust us when we tell you that when you're 0-2, you're going to be down here in the double-digit rankings. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But you know, they haven't had bad games necessarily. The games against the Wet and Wild Wailords, you know, was all right. But I'm starting to see when they have control of the game, they have good control of the game. And the second that their opponent starts to take away a little bit and gain the momentum, it's hard for them to get it back. Could be something that has to do with the team as a whole in general, considering that it relies a little bit heavily on rain. Could be something to do with that they can adjust with their play and with their prep. But that's kind of something that I'm seeing is that, you know, they're able to get to good starts. And when they have control, they're able to pick up the KOs that they want. But the second that their opponent kind of starts to dig into that, it's not working out. So, I mean, they have a good enough handle, I feel, on the league that they're going to be able to pull out a few wins. But their beginning of the schedule is really tough. So
yeah, I mean they landed Barraskewda on the power ranking slide here. So I mean that's cool.
Yeah.
We do like to put mons on here that did work in some capacity. So if you're ever wondering what those are for, it's just kind of whatever we liked seeing for the week, whatever did work, you know, that kind of thing. We usually like to put them on the same slide as you know, the where the actual teams are. So we got Barraskewda and Copperajah here. Anyway, moving on to number 16, we got the Mediocre Mudkips. Just had a couple of unfortunate things happen in their game this week. The Potatoes did really, really well against them. I don't want to take anything away from the Potatoes and their Sent to Scorch play, especially. That was really cool to see. But yeah, I mean they messed up the genning on their Rotom Heat. They made a mistake. They seemingly made a mistake with the Dynamax Primarina. They haven't even brought their Gourgeist, and frankly, in order to really utilize the Glastrier usage, I think they need some transactions, or at least one transaction to get another Trick Room setter, not just a different Trick Room setter, but a second Trick Room setter to one that's a little more just to help the diversity there. Because honestly, if you're using Gourgeist as your primary Trick Room setter, it's tough because it has a lot of weaknesses. And Ice Horse is it wants to be in Trick Room. That's where it thrives. That's how you're going to win games, by reliably setting up Trick Room. So I would look into that. I think if they can do all of that, they'll be back to their old selves. They'll start winning some games.
Next, we have the Platinum Pixies at 15. This is probably the first start of where things start to get a little bit weird. They picked up a win, but we have them below teams that have actually not won yet. It's going to be a little bit tough because they lost to a team that hasn't been doing very well. They still have glaring holes in some of their team on as far as their draft is concerned by not having some type of redirection. When you have 2 times 4 weaknesses on your team, you're going to want to be able to protect those with redirection. But ultimately, we like the direction that they're heading. Ty and Nick are not they're not scrub players at all. They're good players. They know the fundamentals of these games. We could tell, obviously, the way that they played against the Bulus. They understood their win cons. They understand how to build stuff. We just think that their draft is a little bit lackluster, but that's something that literally every team has to kind of go through growing pains in their first season, like figuring out this format, what works, what doesn't. I mean, heck, we're 0-2. Like, we're still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, So it's just one of those things where, hey, they got a good win this week against the Bulus, I feel, but I think they're going to need a little bit more to kind of bump themselves up. So we have them at 15 for right now.
Yeah, I think, it was a kind of precarious win because it did part of it seemed to rely on some heavy RNG that went in their favor, but I think even aside from that, I think we just because of the weaknesses of this team, we need to see more out of them before we start shooting them up in the rankings. I think we need to see, obviously we need to see more wins, but I think even if they're going to shoot way up, they're going to need to take some pretty commanding wins and probably patch up their team with transactions.
Yeah,
as well.
For me, it's not even the fact that they got, like, I think the RNG in that game was overblown or overstated a little bit. For me, it's strictly based on the Bulus have a better draft than them. There's glaring holes in their draft. While I like the play from the two players, those things are keeping it from me from moving them up a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm. So. Right. And then moving into the Bulus, we have them at 14. They took a loss this week, of course, from the Pixies. Was kind of a weird one, but we felt that we couldn't really move them down anymore. They're already pretty low. This is kind of the same story for both us and the Bulus. We were already pretty low. I guess I'll just address both of those at the same time. And then also we have 13 ally switch spammers. They had a bye this week, so we just kept them where they were. But us and the Bulus, I think we both played decently well. I especially like our game against the Drillers this week. Because there were, like, we didn't just, neither of us got absolutely wrecked. There wasn't anything super catastrophic that really warrants us being moved down, especially since we're already pretty low. So we kept both of those where both us and the Bulus where we were last time. So and anything to say on either of those two or the spammers?
Not really. I mean, when you have close losses like how we've had and how the other team who's above us, the Jurors, have, which I guess we can kind of lump them into with that. I mean, you can't go down any lower. You guys, we feel that those teams have a. Ben says, "What a surprise! Dad likes his own game." Yes, we do. We do like our own game.
Go watch it. You'll like it too. You won't admit it, but you'll like it too.
You'll like it. It was a good. It was a well played game. we didn't play terribly for once. But yeah, I think with these teams, they have good drafts. It's early in the year, so they're going to be down here. I mean, it is what it is. We're 0-2. What are you gonna say?
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. We've got numbers 6 through 11 right here. So number 11, the Rainbow Raiders. They took a pretty hefty loss this week. They're the other team aside from the Pixies. They're the other team that is at 1-1, but also in the mix among the 0-2s. Partially because the win that they took was against a very low-ranked team in the Platinum Pixies in Week 1. And then this past week against the Seniors, it was just a really, really devastating loss there. I mean, they couldn't really get a foothold. They didn't really... It kind of looked to me like they didn't really have much of a game plan, and their team just fell apart. It was pretty brutal. Allan says we had the heat. You guys, the Mudkips have the heat. You guys have the mo. So yeah, really devastating loss from the Raiders. So we felt that again, it seems a little weird to have a 1-1 team down at 11 and then an 0-2 team at 10. But based on the way these games have played out so far, we felt that was fitting.
At number 10, we had the Royal Jurors. They played against two tough teams, two teams that are essentially in the top 5. As you can see, they're not here. And they pretty much played them right down to the wire both times. They have really good draft, obviously, with a great Firewater Grass score, a good synergy overall, just good trick room mode. I mean, it's really hard for us to kind of rank this team down at the bottom, considering how they've not only played, but the teams that they've played against. Number 10 right now, the best of the 0-2 teams in our opinion, and even better than some teams that have one win on their record. So right now, you gotta watch out. It's still early in the year, so we have the Jurors at number 10.
And then number 9, Darn Heck and Delibirds. They were down here at number 9 last week. They had a bye, so here they are once again. That's we generally like to keep. I think we've said this before last season. I guess I'll just clarify it again. We generally like to keep teams that had a bye at where they were the previous week. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way because based on what's happened over the week, sometimes a team might do especially poorly or especially good where we like really need to shift some things around, and that causes maybe a team like the Delibirds to go like up or down one slot.
But it's usually no more than one slot.
Right. And usually it's 0. Usually we can keep them where they are. If we need to move them based on some other stuff, we will. But this week we were able to just keep both of the bye teams where they were.
Number 8, Doesn't Click, not getting a slide this week. It's all right. Join the club. We're not getting one either. Doesn't look like we won't be getting one for a little bit. Kind of an aberration, but they got beat pretty handily by Team Pussy. A team that... It's good. It's good that Team Pussy's a good team again.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the league is a better league when they're good. Honestly, so being Doesn't Click and pretty handily, they have a good squad, so we should be all right. Not really worried too much about them, but for now they're dropping 6 slots into the number 8.
Speaking of Team Pussy, really quick, I believe. Oh, okay, never mind. The league is actually picking them this week for the pick'em. So, okay. I thought it was quite a bit. It was a lot more even there, but okay. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Dina says happy to see our Victini being honored. Yeah, I mean it's it picked up some serious KO. Like the 3 when you get 3 KOs on all 3 of your Dynamax turns, I mean that's exactly what you want. That's a good use of Dynamax.
Max mileage.
Yeah. So pretty good stuff. Speaking of Pokemon that made it onto this page here, we've got the Potatoes with their Gmax Centiskorch up next. They just had a really commanding win. It's kind of unfortunate some of the building issues that the Mudkips seem to have, but still, I mean, just a really great showing from the Potatoes. Even though the Potatoes and Doesn't Click are both 1-1, and Doesn't Click actually beat the Potatoes in week 1, we felt like the way that their games so far have played out actually warranted the Potatoes being 1 slot above them, because Doesn't Click ended up getting beat pretty handily by Team Pussy this last week. It was they weren't really able to get a foothold and do much of anything, whereas the Potatoes had a really good showing for their win this week. And in their first week, even though they lost to Doesn't Click, they put up a really good fight. They're doing really well. They have a really strong team. We've said it before. We really love those top 3, and they have yet to even max the Metagross. So props to them for their win. They did really well with that. Centiskorch got 5 KOs. They actually maxed it. Yeah, it's good stuff from the Potatoes. I'm expecting the Potatoes to be stronger than ever this season.
Next, we have the SoCal Cheek Drillers. They've been doing good, man. You got them at number 6. Problem is that they have only beat teams that haven't won a game yet.
That's true. That is true.
So,
but hey, they got Armaldo up here on the board.
They got Armaldo on the board. Sorry about that. But that's the only thing keeping them out of the top 5. We like the roster. We think it's good. They're doing well with it. They're building properly. Excited to see what these guys are going to be able to do, man. They're this close. They just need to beat a team that's basically gonna has a win or two under their belt. Sorry, guys, we can't be a better resistance for you. But what can you do? They're playing the Mudkips, so. They're not going to be able to add, if they win another one, it's not like they're going to be able to add a team that's going to be another team that's winless.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But hey, you got to beat the teams that are on the schedule. That's all that matters. So 2-0 right now. They're proving themselves that they're going to be one of the better teams in the league, hopefully. I think, it's so tough, man. It's early in the year. I think we had the Russians. They went 3-0 or 3-1.
Something like that,
and last season, and they missed playoffs. And then you had, the Team Pussy. They started off 0-4 and almost made it to playoffs. Matt Benevici, the Matt Alcinas, 2 seasons ago, they started terribly and were able to make it into playoffs and actually got to the finals. It's still early in the year, but SoCal Cheek Drillers, they're doing their thing, man. So
yeah, Dom says he wants to see Exploud next. Yeah, I do too. I'm actually really happy we got to put Armaldo up here because it was their Maxmon this week.
Yeah.
And I just figured, like, first of all, that's just cool, and like, at what other time am I going to be able to put Armaldo on these goddamn slides? Like, probably never. No. I didn't expect to see it come out in our game anyway.
Yeah.
Even though it was like, the decision makes sense. I actually like that call from them. It's. I'm glad I got to put it here too. So, all right, moving on to the top 5. This next team that's coming in at number 5, we had kind of a hard time deciding whether to put this team at number 6 and Drillers at number 5, or them at number 5 and Drillers at 6. We landed on Drillers at 6, and the Regigeezers at number 5. For a couple of different reasons, mostly having to do with how their games played out.
They also haven't played a team that has won a game.
Right. They've actually had the exact same schedule these first 2 weeks. The Regigeezers and the SoCal Cheek Drillers have both played us and the New England Patrats.
Yeah.
So we can't even base this on came down to was that the Geezers were 1 spot above them in the power rankings last week. And they also they have a higher differential. Their games were they went quite a bit better. I mean, they kind of just they got through the first couple of turns, and then for both of their games they were able to just kind of go with the flow and do what they needed to do to win, and that actually ended up in a 6-0 victory this past week. Because they were able to just blow through that Urshifu Thunderous lead, and then this goddamn Cobalion here just wrecked everything with those Justified boosts. So not really too much more to say on this team. This is the beginning, or number 6 right here with SoCal Cheek Drillers was really the beginning of the 2-0s. All of the teams up here in the top 5 now are 2-0 as well. So we got Regigeezers down here at number 5.
At number 4, we have the Dubs, the Wet and Wild Wailords, picking up two wins against a good team in the Russians, and then also the Porygons. They're not a bad team either. So honestly, I think it's just more has to do with the fact that they're not only 2-0, but having pretty good wins just in general, good play. I think that they've showed that they can put together really good prep. I think that the Araquanid having a dark move to be able to hit the Jellicent with, otherwise it was going to be completely walled.
Yeah.
Being able to understand that the Dynamax rotates to protect the Nihilego there, make sure that it can get the protected so that way when the Max comes over to it, could have as much HP as possible. overall, I've seen just really, really good prep. The Dragon Dance Flygon this week, leading the Incineroar against the Barraskewda team. A lot of things. I said the Russians last year, Dina. You guys were the Russians last year. But yeah, a lot of things in general. I think that their prep has just been really good. Probably the only time was just at the beginning of the game this last week. We saw like the Bronzong went down immediately, the Bulu went down immediately. Like it seemed like it was falling apart a little bit, but overall I like the team. I feel like they just need redirection, but whatever. We're 0-2, so
we'll see what they do with transactions.
So. Yeah, we'll see. That Chansey hasn't come out, and I think they're starting to notice that this timer is you don't need no help with this timer, man. You just don't.
I would honestly be surprised if Chansey is still there after transactions. I mean, so
Joe and Sierra are pretty seasoned draft players, so
yeah, true.
I would assume that they're at least taking a look at transactions, if not this week, in the future.
Yeah. One final thought on the Wet and Wild Wailords. Just get us a goddamn logo, man.
Yeah, please.
Joe said he was just going to throw something together on Microsoft Paint. I'll take it, man.
We'll take it, yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, we'll take a wolf-style logo, a wolf intro-style logo, whatever, man.
Yeah, fine by us. No problem. I don't want to have to put this Wailord up here again. All right, coming in at number 3, the Sadistic Seniors with their stupid, amazing, beautiful, awful... I love it so much.
Can I just say I'm so glad the Seniors I got a slide on here and they're in the top 3. It's like, it feels like a long time coming, right?
Yeah, no, they really deserve it too, especially given how their games have gone so far. And God, it's just the threat level is just, it's so strong. We keep reiterating this point, but it's just so true. Every single time something comes out, it just puts so much pressure down. It's just like something else hits the field and it's like, oh God, we have to deal with that now every time.
Yep.
And it's no coincidence that it allowed them to win in such a commanding fashion this past week. So yeah. There's not really much more to say than that. We went into more detail about that game early on, and they've been doing very well.
2-0.
So, yes.
Congrats to them. Keep it up, guys.
And number 2.
Another team I'm happy that is getting a slide on here is Team Pussy.
Yeah.
We talked about it before. It is fantastic when Team Pussy is good in this league. They're great players. They know how to build well. They're going to start recording their matches now, so we're going to be able to see some more stuff from them. But this is a team that won it 2 seasons ago. They missed the playoffs barely last season. I can't wait, man. I can't wait to see what else these guys can do. They put together an impressive showing against Doesnt Click. They put up together an impressive showing against the Mudkips. 2 teams that have been predicted to do very well in this league.
Yeah.
And they put together 2 really good games against them. And this team, their comfort picks, they're just showing that they know what to do with it. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what else they can do. Like I said, I think the comfort picks combined with solid Pokemon like Celesteela and Cinderace, it's really going to help them out a lot. Don't have redirection, but I guess they don't need it, right? So.
Yeah. I also just I liked putting Togedemaru here mostly because I know that Celesteela, I think they're kill leader for this week, but dude,
cuts that berry.
I just loved I loved that turn so much. The Custap berry at the 1 HP with the sturdy and Endeavor,
Life Orb.
Like almost, it's not priority, but it's basically a quick claw Endeavor at 1 HP.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so cool. And then not having Lightning Rod actually made the Toxtricity go down. So that was crazy. I loved that. So just had to put Togedemaru up here, at least for that. If Team Pussy stays up here in the top 5, which I think is likely, there will no doubt be another point at which Celesteela is the appropriate mon to put up here. So I'm sure that's going to be the MVP more than once.
Exactly. There's going to be a few times.
Yeah, we got 9 more weeks, and it's a good S tier. So, all right, and once again, Number 1.
Jeez, man. They're just... I hate that we were so right about this team.
Well, it's only been 2 weeks, but yeah, I mean, so far, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to bring back We're Idiots and We're Geniuses.
Yeah, we do. Because, man, we knew that this team was going to be good. We knew that Ben and Vichy behind the wheel of this team was going to be good. But, man, they just... Did you see the Dragon Energy knock out both of the World Jurors Pokemon? Just the Victini was like at 75% health and like... Oh my lord.
That was so ridiculous. I like when the damage came out, like I actually underestimated the damage a little bit because when I saw that double KO, I was like, okay, that's Specs, right?
Nope.
No, not it wasn't even Jesus, man.
Yeah. This team is proving to be absolutely terrifying. They know how to set their stuff up properly. The Tailwind on Kartana, beautiful building, just beautiful prep overall. Honestly, they're going to be really tough to beat on a week to week basis. Are they in our division this year?
No.
Thank God. We have a really good record against Ben and Vichy. They beat us one time in top 4, mind you. But thank God we don't have to play against them this time because it's completely looking the opposite. We're looking not that great, and they're looking fantastic right now. So. Also, kind of a long time coming. We've been waiting for them to kind of just start running this league. It's been a matter of time, and they always seem to like care just enough to make it to playoffs. But this time maybe. And
it's not like they scrub out of playoffs. I mean, they made top 4 last season. They made finals the season before. Like
it's just like they sleepwalk through the regular season. They're like, how many wins do we need to make it? 6? We'll get 6.
I wonder how much of that is real and how much is just. I mean, they are who they are.
Also, they have 10 legitimate Pokemon that they can bring at all.
Most teams don't have that.
Most teams don't have that. And Vichy still refuses to bring a bluff. Think about that. Yeah. Think about that. And that they legitimately have 10 Pokemon that they can bring on a week-to-week basis every single week. And he still refuses to bring a bluff. If you're watching this right now and you see, oh, hey, he's doing it on purpose. I don't know why. I don't know. He was raised badly by Matt.
I respect the commitment.
Yeah, right?
That's what I'll say about that. Dom asks, are you rethinking Regigeezers' tier? I've actually been thinking about this since the last battle. Thankfully, we don't have to make a decision on that anytime soon. That'll be a next season kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna be keeping an eye on it. If it continues to be as strong as it's appeared to be so far, yeah, I would probably put it in A tier for next season. But nothing we can do about that now. We put it in B tier already, and that's where that's where it is.
What can we do?
So yeah, I mean, really good showing by the Mats. They almost lost, but
they didn't.
That's why we have the Jurors up pretty high for their record at least as well. Yeah. So it's they didn't have as dominant of a game as like a Team Pussy or the Sadistic Seniors did this week, but they were already at number 1. It's really hard to move them down if they don't lose, and
especially if they're winning solidly.
Right, and frankly, we like their draft better than the ones below them. They're on paper, if you're just looking at the Pokemon, their draft is still probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Ben, I mean, Ben says only A tier for the Draga. I mean, we'll see. We'll see, man. I mean, if you do well enough with it, then yeah, maybe we'll put it in S tier.
People are so reactionary in this league too. Yeah. Like I could totally see people like S tier. It did too good, and it's like, yeah, it's unusable in S tier, right? No, it did too good.
Yeah. That's I wouldn't be surprised to hear that from some people. I don't think it's gonna be even become S tier worthy. It's yeah.
No. U
tier Regidrago. Let's go.
All right, let's move on here.
All right, so here's our power rankings for week 2. Down at the bottom, we got the New England Patrats at 18, Dark Web Porygons 17, Mediocre Mudkips at 16, Platinum Pixies moving up a little bit at 15. Then we got some stagnation here in the lower teens. St. Louis Bulus still at 14, Ally Switch Spammers coming off a bye still at 13, us the Amoonguss Burnouts still at 12, Rainbow Raiders taking a dip after a tough loss coming in at 11. Rural Jurors staying at 10 after a hard-fought battle, even though they lost. Again, Delibirds, like the Spammers, coming off of a bye. We kept them there at number 9. Doesn't Click falling down quite a bit. I don't really like Doesn't Click falling this far, considering they were at number 2. But yeah, it was we just couldn't justify... It more has to do with everybody above them doing well rather than them actually being deserving of number 8, because I don't think they're deserving of number 8, but that's just kind of what happens whenever we like everybody above them more. So they're number 8. Potatoes, really good showing so far, up at number 7. SoCal Cheek Drillers taking a win off of us, moving up to 6. Regigeezers taking a 6-0 win this week, moving up into the top 5. The Wet and Wild Wailords taking another win, moving up to the number 4 slot. Sadistic Seniors taking a very commanding win, moving up to number 3. Team Pussy, also a very good win, putting them up at number 2. And then the Mats remaining at number 1 after their win as well. So those are our week 2, season 5, week 2 power rankings. Boom. Now we're moving into our week 3 pick'ems. Stick around after the pick'ems. We have another segment relating to transactions after we get done here, so stick around for that.
Let's fly through these real quick so we can get to that.
Yes. Okay, so week 3 pick'ems, we've got the Dark Web Porygons versus the Darn Heck and Delibirds. This one is a little bit difficult because we haven't seen much from the Delibirds yet. They took one win, then they had a bye. But I think they performed well enough that we actually like their odds against the Porygons, especially since the Porygons have yet to pick up a win so far. So
it was tough though. I think this is going to be a close game overall. It can really be a toss up. This is one of the ones that I'm a little bit less sure on here. But you're right. I think I like what I've seen out of Delibird so far. Their draft is not something that I typically would like, but they seem to be doing okay piloting it. So, I agree. I like what we've seen out of them so far.
You want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. Sadistic Seniors versus the Potatoes here. Man, right into another really close one. Like we kind of debated this one for a little while.
Yeah.
We're picking the Seniors. We just think that they have a lot of that threat level. The way that they've been playing is going to be really hard to stop. The Potatoes' amazing synergy has been helping them a lot, but their passive style of play might kind of play into a little bit more with the Seniors. Metagross is something that we talk about that could be possibly an issue for the Seniors, but they've done such a great job just kind of figuring out ways to deal with problematic Pokemon. We saw Starmie this week. I mean, I don't want to put anything past their prep. So a toss up because we like the Potatoes draft and we like the Seniors draft. I would say that right now the way we're kind of leaning is no disrespect to Alyssa and Henry, but man, the Seniors are playing fantastic. And even though we don't like their draft as much as maybe we like the Potatoes draft, they're playing at a little bit higher of a level than the Potatoes right now. They're it seems like they're hitting all
I think
their
that's up for
cylinders.
debate.
Yeah, and I see that's the thing. That's the thing is that it's going to be close, but ultimately this is going to be one of the must-watch games. The Seniors, we're picking the Seniors here.
Yeah, but again, if the Potatoes won, wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one, we got the Rainbow Raiders versus the Wet and Wild Wailords. This one we thought was a little more straightforward. The Wailords are 2-0, even though they've had a couple of precarious spots in their games. But the Raiders, they are 1-1. They've beaten a pretty low-ranked team, and then they also took a pretty devastating loss this last week. So based on the way these two teams are playing and what we know about the players, we think the Wailords are most likely going to take this one.
Yeah, it's kind of tough when your S tier Pokemon gets beat by their Nihilego, right? The Togekiss just gets bam beat down by that Nihilego pretty badly. So we'll see how it works. Honestly, it just comes down to the Wailords have been playing fantastically, and the Raiders it's been a little bit inconsistent. So
yeah.
Next we have the SoCal Cheek Drillers versus the Mediocre Mudkips. We feel that this one can go either way as well. But the Drillers lost to the Sky Pillars, well, formerly the Sky Pillars, now the Mediocre Mudkips last season. Probably looking to get a little bit of revenge, but man, the Mudkips don't want to lose 3 in a row. They just don't. So it's going to be a good game ultimately, but we think the Drillers have a lot of tools in their toolbox with this team of theirs, and they've proved that they have good ways to kind of build around certain things. The Mudkips are kind of... Dina says we're going to fly through these, and we've been sticking on them forever. Yes, you're right. The Mudkips, they've had some building issues, so if they can overcome a couple of those building issues, then who knows, maybe they'll be all right. But they definitely don't want to lose 2 in a row.
I also think it's going to be difficult for that Glastrier to blow through a team with Blastoise. So
yeah. Valley VVS, who most likely is Brian from the SoCal Cheek Drillers, is saying that the Cheek Drillers are pretty good. I wonder why he would say that. Can't be any type of bias, I'm sure. Let me ask him a question real quick. If this is Brian, where's the list, bro? Bobby's getting released tomorrow. Where's the list? Anyway, let's go back.
All right, moving on to Shield Division. Let's fly through this. Ally Switch Spammers versus Team Pussy. We're taking Team Pussy mostly because they've been pretty dominant so far. We are not. We haven't seen much from the Ally Switch Spammers this season. Now we know that previously they were the Toronto Talonflames. We know they're a very good team from last season, but we haven't seen. We've only seen them using their draft once so far, kind of like the Delibirds. But this has more to do with how dominant Team Pussy's been. It's gonna be they're gonna be a really difficult team to beat. So the Spammers can do it. They definitely can. But man, it's gonna be tough to blow through this team.
Next we have the Matt Alcinas versus Doesnt Click. This one's gonna be close too, man. But we just like the Mats a lot in this, just in general. Honestly,
this is one of the most significant matchups of the whole season. I think.
Yeah,
like I don't think they've ever played each other before.
It's gonna be close, man. Like the Dragapult Urshifu can cause some major problems for the Mats here, but I think the combination of being able to have Indeedee, having the Regidrago as well, I think they're going to be able to do some stuff here. Support Dragapult might be pretty good here too. I'm not trying to give away too much stuff, but I could see like screens might actually do some decent help with something that just has a very offensive mode like this, just being able to kind of mitigate some of the damage and hitting them back. But yeah, it could. It's gonna be pretty good. I like the Mats, man. They're gonna be all right. Doesn't Click going 1 and 2. I don't know if they usually don't like to lose 2 in a row.
Oh no, they don't.
Yeah, no, so we'll see.
Yeah, this is another one. Like if it goes the other way, would not be surprised at all to see it. Next, we got the Regigeezers versus the Pixies. This one is also a little bit more straightforward. We have a top 5 team going up against one of the bottom teams. And on paper, looking at these two drafts, I mean, the Geezers I think they just have so much to overwhelm the Pixies, and yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot to say. The Pixies could potentially bring out the big guns and catch the Geezers off guard with something. I'd be surprised if that happens. I think. Given how these two teams have been doing so far and how much stronger the Geezers draft looks on paper, I think it's going to be hard, really, really hard for the Pixies to actually pull this one out.
Yeah, it is. After that, we have the New England Patrats versus the Royal Jurors. Pretty much the same story. Not a top 5 team, but the Royal Jurors have been playing very well. They just haven't had that win to put under their belt yet. The New England Patrats, their draft has holes in it, and their play has not been up to snuff, I would say. They're going to have a chance to get transactions done this week, but those aren't going to come into play until week 4, so they're going to have to stick with this roster for one more week before they can make any changes. Because of that, we like the Jurors here. We think that the Jurors have a lot of different game plans to kind of attack the mode that they've been relying on the most with the Urshifu and the Thunderous. So it's going to be interesting, but we predict the Rural Jurors are just going to take it outright.
Indeed. All right, so and then our buys. We are on a buy this week, as are the St. Louis Bulus. So we'll have to wait until week 4 to see if either of us can actually pick up a win.
Yep.
All right, so that's going to do it for our week 3 pick'ems. We are not done yet, though. We have transactions tomorrow. Tomorrow being Tuesday. It is still Monday night here, even though it's almost midnight. Whatever. So we wanted to do something a little bit different that we haven't done before. In preparation for transactions, we wanted to give you guys our thoughts on basically what is the most valuable stuff that is still on the board that you can pick up for transactions. Now, there were a lot of Pokemon we considered putting on these lists. We're doing Pokemon from multiple different tiers. S, A, B, and C tiers. There's a lot of stuff we considered putting on these lists, but we had to kind of limit ourselves, and we also want to let you guys know that if there's something still on the board that we don't mention that might work well with your team, we're not telling you that it's not worth trading for.
It's more general,
right? This is more just general value.
Splashable.
Right. We're not really thinking about how these are working with any particular teams. So if you have stuff that you want to go for and it's not here, by all means go for it. We're not telling you that it's bad just because we're not mentioning it here. So there's plenty of stuff that's going to be really viable that we're not even going to mention. Just these are generally the strongest Pokemon that didn't get picked during the draft. So, with that being said, we've got just a few from the S tier that we're gonna go over. So the first one being the Urshifu Rapid Strike. We saw both of the Dark type Urshifus getting picked, as opposed to last season we had one of each. Both of the G-Max forms got picked. The Mats had the Dark type, and the Potatoes had the Water type. This time, both of the Dark types got picked, the G-Max and non-G-Max. So both of the Rapid Strike Urshifus are still available. We kind of know we know what Urshifu does. It's not really too versatile. It's not one of these Pokemon that's going to be like, well, it's used like this in VGC, but in draft you can do these other things with it. It's mostly just going to be that powerful offensive physical attacker. It has a unique typing, which is basically just limited to itself and to the Keldeo, which we have. If somebody brings up Poliwrath, I'm going to tell you to get out of here right now because that thing sucks.
The seniors tried it.
Yeah,
they won once.
You don't tell me about Poliwrath.
Yeah.
The only water fighting types in the game are Keldeo and Rapid Strike Urshifu. But it's got a unique typing. And because of the crits on both the Wicked Blow for the Dark type and the Surging Strikes for this one, there's pretty limited counterplay to it. It's really hard to mitigate the damage against it. The only thing that really works consistently is like a burn. If you try to boost up your defense or lower its attack or set up Reflect, Crit doesn't give a shit about any of that. So it can be a little bit tough to play against because of that limited counterplay. Want to take the next one?
Yeah, let's fly through these, man. Come on.
Okay. Or you want me to just take the slide? You can take the next slide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Venusaur.
Let's go through it.
Venusaur, in my opinion, is the best weather abuser, frankly. It's got amazing coverage. Grass, poison, and ground work so well together, and it threatens sleep at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's got such a powerful G-Max effect, even though it's a little bit less powerful in a 6v6 format like this. But it's just it's so good, and it's so difficult to play against because you don't know. Like this applies to VGC and draft. Really, you don't know which way it's gonna go. You don't know, is this gonna max or is it just gonna sleep powder me? I have no idea, and it's so hard to cover for both. When we were prepping for the mats in playoffs last season in top 4, they had the Ninetales and the Gmax Venusaur. God, it was such a bitch to prep for. It's so good. It's so powerful. You do need a drought user to really completely unlock its potential. But that's totally doable because both Kanto Ninetales and Torkoal are on the board. Mm-hmm. So even Kanto Vulpix down in C tier if you really want that. And then we have Tornadus Incarnate. Prankster Tailwind is just amazing, especially with dynamic speeds. It's got other Prankster stuff it can do. It likes to taunt a lot. It can set up Rain Dance. Maybe it has 1 or 2 other Prankster things it can do. Its support move pool is a little bit limited compared to a lot of other Prankster users. But the Tailwind is just so powerful, and it's pretty diverse in the ability, in the kind of offense it can offer. It can be a good special or physical sweeper. We see Defiant Thunderous a lot in VGC. Not so much the Tornadus, but this is a case of not something you see in VGC. Could be really good in draft versus specific stuff. But it also has the ability to be a really powerful special sweeper as well. It does have access to Nasty Plot, so it can be a really good Nasty Plot max Airstream sweeper. I'm actually using Tornadus Incarnate in another league, and I can tell you it's really good at all of that stuff. So really, really good S tier there.
In the A tiers, we have a couple of the birds here from the new Galar region.
Dude, I am shocked that neither of these got picked. How are they both still on the board? They're really high value A tiers. What the fuck, dude?
The fact that they're A tiers, they're good Dynamax options because they have Stab Max, Airstream. Articuno obviously, has a ton of potential with like Calm Mind, things like that. Gets Trick Room, gets Tailwind, gets all those stuff. Zapdos. Also, just really good, just in general. Not as good as the Galarian Articuno, but for its tier in A tier.
Dude, sometimes it might be better, honestly.
Yeah. I think the main thing is like the stats. Having a 600 BSC Pokemon with like really good stats, just in general, can be very good. And the fact that they're max Airstream sweepers can really, really help. So, honestly, for being 60 points, I think really worth it in these particular A tier. For Articuno, being able to have competitive to consistently be able to boost its special attack stat, when lowering your opponent's stats is such like a reliable strategy. Having Articuno to kind of combat that a little bit and make sure that it's not going to get rolling completely is really going to help a lot. And like we said, the dual speed control, having max Airstream, having Tailwind, having Trick Room, like all those things is just going to help so much. You got to figure out which way it's going to go. And if you don't guess right, you could end up just on the back foot right away. Zapdos gets very good ability as well, gets Defiant, has really, really good coverage. It's actually really underrated, the coverage that it gets. Yeah. It has some good support, 200 base speed, so it is able to get the support moves off pretty quickly. Just 2 Pokemon that I'm really surprised just haven't gotten picked. The Moltres we kind of expected. It's in the S tier, it's really good. But these 2 down in A tier, we definitely thought they have gone. So if you have some A tiers that, you're looking at that they're giving the side eye, that they're not pulling their weight, these 2 could definitely, fill out your team.
You know what I forgot to do? Oop. All right, now you guys can see the whole slide because I fucked him up before we started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so now you don't get to see our beautiful faces. Sorry, guys. You can end the video now if that was the only reason why you were watching. The next one is Torkoal. As an A tier, Tornadus, the Tornadus
just want to get it on the screen.
Way.
I know.
The A tier, is a really good tier for such a powerful Trick Room sweeper. Something that has so much utility in being able to set Sun, having such a low speed stat that underspeeds so many things in this meta, as far as multi-battle is concerned, and can really just beat pretty much anybody's Trick Room mode just by having that. You don't even need. If you want to run like Venusaur with it by pairing those 2, you really don't even need to have Torkoal in Trick Room. You can run it any way that you want. And then just kind of have it like as a Trick Room counter if you want, because you're deterring them from setting Trick Room up on you. Because Torkoal could just put up massive damage with the eruptions, whether they're charcoal boosted, choice specs boosted, however you want to do it. It could do major damage. So some really good high quality A tiers that I think are still left on the board here, and I do really think that these can help teams that are struggling, particularly with like fire type for the Torkoal. Some really solid fire type just in general. So
it's good at support too.
Yeah,
like Yawn and you could Will-O-Wisp or Burning Jealousy. It's actually good at support too. Body press as well. So next up we got some more A tiers. Celebi is something that it's a Pokemon we feel is actually really slept on. I don't know if it's ever been picked as long as we've played in this league.
Nope.
But it's honestly really powerful. It's a high BST mon. It's got base 100s across the board. It's honestly not even that different from Victini. I think Victini's move pool is what kind of pushes it over the edge into the S tier. But Celebi is frankly a high value A tier, and I'm shocked it hasn't gotten some play, and it's actually a good max option. It's really versatile. It has a lot of good coverage. It like I said, base 100s off the across the board, so you can go physical or special. It gets Nasty Plot, it gets Swords Dance, lots of coverage. It can do some supportive stuff as well. It's how does this thing not get picked? I don't get it.
Same with these next ones too. Go ahead.
Yeah, Salamence and Gyarados. Salamence we've seen less of doing this kind of stuff, but Gyarados early on, it's in VGC and in Sword and Shield, it was a really big Moxie Max Airstream Sweeper with that getting access to that bounce. And Salamence and Gyarados are going to function pretty similarly in that respect. They're both going to be pretty powerful, getting those Moxie boosts as your Dynamax option. And they're actually kind of versatile in that you can use them both for support as well. I mean, Gyarados, you can do stuff like Icy Wind or Thunder Wave, Taunt. Salamence, you can put like Tailwind, Breaking Swipe, probably
Bulldoze.
Bulldoze for speed control too, especially if you got like a Metagross or something next to it. I think these are really strong Pokemon that can do a few different things very well, and they're good at role switching as well.
Brian here coming in saying that Celebi is free. That's, whenever Brian says that something's free and that's his only argument for it, that's how you know you have him beat. Because I'm sure Allan, during the team building, brought all this stuff up, and they're like, what do you think? And Brian's answer was like, it's free. It has a ×4 weakness. You just described most things. Yeah. Like Salamence has a ×4 weakness too. Gyarados has a ×4 weakness too. But I do want to say, Brian, I think you're sleeping on it, man. I think you're sleeping on it.
I think everybody is.
Yeah.
Marowak, pretty straightforward. We all know what Alolan Marowak does. It's extremely powerful, still on the board. If you need something with raw damage, if you want a good ghost or fire type or both, pick this thing up. It's probably going to do well for you.
Real quick, Marowak and Gyarados, that combination, the Talonflames did very well with last season.
And they picked it up very late, too.
They picked it up very late, making Marowak jolly, getting the max airstreams up. You don't have to just do Trick Room. If you build this thing right, it could do a lot of different stuff. So, yeah, I'm surprised Marowak Alola is on the board as well.
For sure. All right, you want to take these?
Yeah, sure. A couple more A tiers here. Grimmsnarl, Grimmsnarl is pretty straightforward for the most part, but what people don't understand is that it also has a really good move pool and can be used offensively, something that we've used as well. It's your typical Prankstermon that, as far as like getting, Thunder Wave, Fake Tears, Scary Face, it gets a lot of different support options, also gets access to Fake Out. So ultimately, I think I'm surprised that both Grimmsnarls didn't get picked up. I know the G-Max one did, but the regular one not getting picked up, I was really surprised at as well. Gothitelle, another Pokemon gets Fake Out. Shadow Tag's really, really powerful in multi-battle. Here's why, guys. It's impossible to check whether or not they're running Shadow Tag or competitive unless you see the competitive activate. Because you can't switch out your first slot to see if there's Shadow Tag on there, because it's going to lock you into the switch. So the only time you can really check is if you've already activated competitive or if it's the optimal play to switch out. And you're just like, well, we're going to need to switch out. May as well check if we can. But ultimately, Gothitelle in multi-battle is so powerful. And that's a top-tier Trick Room setter with Fake Out, with a good ability, good bulk. I'm really, really surprised that it hasn't been picked up yet. And you noted here as well that it has an offensive mode with competitive. Something we kind of saw early in the season was the competitive G-Max Gothitelle, or the Dynamax Gothitelle.
Yeah.
That can start doing some major damage once you get it going. So I'm surprised that Gothitelle hasn't picked up. Lucario.
I'm actually going to cut in here real quick. Shannon, Ferret, take the Gothitelle.
Oh man, yeah, that would be really good if they're listening to this. That would be really good. Being able to trap in with Ice Horse. I mean, pretty much the way you beat Ice Horse is by defensively switching your way out of Trick Room.
Damn right.
Can't do that with Gothitelle. But yeah, it'd be very, very, very powerful there. You can also get stuff like Heal Pulse, right? Yeah,
it gets a lot of good support.
Yeah, it gets a lot of really good support. And then Lucario gets access to Inner Focus, so it can't be faked out. Pretty much the best redirector left in the A tier. Can be ran a number of different ways too. You don't have to just run it as a redirector. It has decent stats to be offensive if you want it to. We saw that in early 2017, not last resort, Final Gambit has kind of been like really nerfed a lot.
Yeah.
But it can still have a niche in multi-battle because we know where the Dynamax slot is going into on a turn-to-turn basis. And Dynamax isn't super powerful, or it's only lasts 3 turns in multi-battle. Having Lucario kind of come in late and just be like, oh, I can pick off any of these, with the Final Gambit can be pretty good, especially for like an A tier where like for the rural jurors, they have Victini. That's their S tier. You don't want to be Final Gambiting stuff with your S tier Pokemon.
Right. You
want to get really good mileage out of those. But for an A tier, it's like, hey man, if we can get a good trade out of that, that'd be perfect. So I think the Final Gambit can be used a little bit, but obviously you're going to be using it a lot for Follow Me and the fact that it can't get faked out. It's going to set you up for a lot of turn 1 setups that just can't be stopped because you have a redirector that can't be faked out.
And it's actually decent offensively too. It's not the best, but like Inner Focus makes it so much more viable as a physical attacker. Mm-hmm. You could just put a choice item on it and have it like clean up at the end. It actually gets Swords Dance and Nasty Plot. Inner Focus also makes it good at being a coaching user.
Yeah.
Because coaching can't be redirected, so like Fake Out, Follow Me, who cares? I'm gonna go for coaching anyway. Mm-hmm. It can actually do a lot of good stuff. I think its stats are a little bit lackluster, but you can make it work. And the reason it's really up here in the A tier is because it is one of the most reliable redirectors because of the Inner Focus.
People always like go, oh well, it doesn't have Prankster like Riolu. It's like, yeah, but it still has better stats, and Inner Focus is a really good ability. Like, so
it can switch modes, whereas Riolu can't.
Yes, exactly. So it'd be good.
All right, moving on to the B tiers. We got a couple of Tailwind users. These are probably the best Tailwind users you're going to get out of B tier. The Noivern and the Aerodactyl. They're both very fast. Aerodactyl hitting 130 base speed, Noivern hitting 123. Fast Tailwind is incredibly good with these dynamic speeds in this generation. They're both capable of going offensive because they are so fast, and they have decent offensive stats, not the best, but they can actually both function as max airstream sweepers. Finally, after who knows how long, Aerodactyl actually has a good physical flying move because it has dual wing beat now. So that's pretty good. You don't have to rely on fly if you want it to be a max airstream user or use flying type attacks in general. But yeah,
imagine saying the word good move and dual wing beat in the same sentence.
Well, I mean, that's what it comes down to for some of these flying types, like Dragonite too. It's the same thing. So
gotta have that stab, man.
Right, that's important. But both of these mons get they get some decent coverage. Aerodactyl, I don't know if it used to get Dragon Dance, but I noticed that it actually does now. It's at least a TR. I don't think it got it before, but I could be wrong. They also have some. They both have some decent support options even outside of the Tailwind. They both have access to a really fast taunt. Noivern has U-turn. Has a couple of other things that I'm not remembering right now, but and then the Aerodactyl has it has Wide Guard, which you don't see much of these days. A little bit more now that we have that GS Cup type format in VGC, but not so much really anywhere else. But yeah, good support mons, and they have some offensive options as well. Then we got the Kafagrigus and Runerigus, kind of just smash these two together. They're very similar to each other. They are, as far as we can tell, they're pretty clearly the best Trick Room setters left in B tier. So if you want a Trick Room setter out of B tier, you're probably gonna want to look at either of those, which are good options. They're very bulky. Ghost types can't be faked out. We actually considered taking one of these over the Slowbro, actually, but decided that Slowbro was at least better for our purposes. So, but they're both still on the board, both very good. And then the Hitmontop is actually an A tier last season. Mm-hmm. It's actually a pretty valuable B tier. It's very good support. Intimidate, Fake Out is not something you get on a lot of mons. It's also got the Quick Guard and the Wide Guard. It can offer some pretty significant offense as well. It's not the most offensive Pokemon. I think its base attack's only like 95, but a stab close combat is always going to hit hard.
Yeah.
And it's got some other coverage as well. You can even like self bullet punch on some of your mons if that tickles your fancy for the weakness policy proc or. It gets Mach Punch.
Honestly, an amazing support Pokemon.
Yeah,
I think it's
has
really
a lot of tools.
Undervalued here in B tier. Helping Hand too. Access to that, like just stuff that helps. It can help your team like kind of push it over the edge a little bit.
Yeah. And
other B tier users.
Yeah.
We have some Prankster users here. We have Liepard, Sableye, Meowstic. I think all these get Fake Out as well, which is nice for Prankster users. I think all these particular Pokemon can be used just depending on what you want particularly. Sableye with Quash stuff. Meowstic gets like screens, Thunder Wave, things like that. Liepard gets Thunder Wave too, but also has the benefit of getting like Unburdened stuff as well. So if you're afraid of like dark types or anything like that, and you still want to have like a very fast support option, Liepard can still kind of fit in there by running like Unburdened with like a Seed or something like that to kind of really be able to get the fast support still going.
Prankster Taunt is big on Liepard too.
Yeah, Prankster Taunt, Copycat stuff if you're really into that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I like Liepard a lot. I'm surprised that it hasn't been it wasn't taken this season, considering that usually does get taken.
Yeah.
Then next, Electabuzz, last redirector on the B tier, has Follow Me. Eviolite can give it some decent bulk, has good support options. I think I'm actually pretty surprised that Electabuzz wasn't taken at all because Magmar, Magmortar, Electivire, all taken. I feel that like people who are a little bit more veterans in draft know that those get, Follow Me and you can use those and stuff like that. I'm really surprised Electabuzz wasn't taken because Follow Me is just at such a premium.
Yeah.
And then next, Pink Urchin, man. I mean, people think that, we just hyped it up because we used it, but the reality is rising voltage in electric terrain, you just got to do the calcs. Like if you look at it, it does so much damage. It's the low speed stat, can just help you win in so many different matchups. It really is almost like a budget Torkoal in a way because it doesn't really have stats that like make that kind of stand out, but its ability helps it offensively in such a way, and its low speed stat helps it offensively in such a way that it makes it very threatening in those Trick Room situations. And here's something too. When you have both Rillabooms, Tapu Bulu, Indeedee, and Tapu Fini all on teams, being able to use a B tier as something to just kind of get rid of terrain or even nullify stuff like Amoonguss that has been taken with sleep and all these other things, I think that it can be very, very valuable in certain situations. So just having something that can come in and set terrain for you is very, very valuable.
Absolutely. And now we're moving on to the C tiers here. We've got the first one is Behem here. As far as we're concerned, this is the best Trick Room setter in the C tier. All the other Trick Room setters you're gonna find down here are they're a little bit awkward, like stuff like Claydol and Orbeetle. They're too fast and not offensive enough, really. They set up a Trick Room and then they they kind of have a hard time doing anything in Trick Room. There are Pokemon that are just kind of too fast and frail, like Jinx. Jinx, you can use it for other stuff, but don't draft Jinx thinking, oh, well, we need a Trick Room user, we're going to take Jinx. And then there are just some Pokemon, some Trick Room setters in C tier that are just straight bad. Like, nobody's going to take Solrock or Lunatone, right? Behem is, it's got 40 base speed, it's a respectable Trick Room user with that speed. Not as slow as you want it to be, but it is in C tier. It has okay bulk, not great, but I would say the bulk is usable. And then it has 125 base special attack with actually a lot of good coverage. It's actually, I think it's kind of a sleeper pick down here in the C tier. So much so that I think if you took like 10 to 20 points out of the speed and put it in bulk, it would easily be good enough to be a B tier. So I think it's easily the best Trick Room setter you're going to get out of C tier, if that might be what you're looking for. Dusk Lycanroc, frankly, this one's really straightforward. Its speed and damage output is just very high for C tier. It was in B tier last season. I think you can actually make a really strong case that it still deserves to be in B tier. But it's down here in C, and I think it's a serious value pick in C tier. It's a big steal. Frostlass also kind of a steal down here in C tier. It's got the same speed as the Dusk Lycanroc, 110, or is Dusk Lycanroc 112? No, Midday is 112, I think.
I think the Dusk is 110.
Yeah. Okay. So Frostlass, same speed, base 110. It's mostly just going to be a fast, diverse support Pokemon. It has a lot of support options. It's got Icy Wind, Thunder Wave, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, Fake Tears. It's got a lot of stuff like that. It has some decent coverage. You can use an Ice Shard to self-proc a weakness policy maybe. It gets Poltergeist. You can run it physical or special. Its base attack and special attack are only 80, so don't expect it to be a sweeper. But if you need to use an attack on it, you can go physical or special. You can go either with the Poltergeist or with the Shadow Ball. It actually gets triple Axle, or you can use the classic Ice Beam. It actually has you can run a surprise Destiny Bond on it as well. That's always good with a speed like base 110. We've seen that on Gengar quite a few times in this league, so it's got a lot of good stuff it can do. I think it's actually fairly valuable down here in C tier if it works well with your team. And then Fungus, I think, might be the C tier I was most surprised not to see picked up. It's definitely the best redirector out of the ones down here left in C tier. Largely because it has that base 15 speed with the Spore. It's so good at countering opposing Trick Room because it's so slow, just like Pincurchin. It's got the same base speed as Pincurchin, and you can just put almost anything to sleep before it has a chance to get going, with a few notable exceptions like the overcoat on a Scavalier, or if you really need to put it can also force your opponents to put safety goggles on their slow Trick Room sweepers. It's a pretty effective Trick Room counter, and then only one thing can hold the safety goggles anyway.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Fungus, very, very good C tier.
Couple of other C tiers here that we just kind of wanted to get in, almost like honorable mentions a little bit. Some low tier redirectors, because redirection still is a premium on these particular boards. Pichu, Togepi, and Squirtle all get redirection. All can hold something like a Focus Sash to kind of get 2 good hits out of it. They all have like a similar amount of like support options, Helping Hand. Does Pichu get Fake Out?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and Lightning Rod.
Yeah. Squirtle as well, I believe, gets Fake Out. So, you have a few different things that you can use here. If you need Redirector and C tier, there's still these 3. Next, you have the Tailwind setter. Golbat, Fletchinder, Skarmory, and Sigilyph. Particularly the Fletchinder. Sigilyph is also pretty fast as well.
It's got like 103, I think.
Yeah,
on
so
the base speed.
it can set stuff up pretty quickly. What's Golbat's speed?
I think it's only like 90, but Golbat. The reason Golbat is so significant here is that it has Inner Focus.
Yeah. Yeah, so with Inner Focus definitely makes it a lot better. So I think, if you're looking for some good Tailwind options, Fletchinder, man, I think having that could honestly be one of the top, budget priority Tailwind users. I think we're the only team right now that has priority Tailwind. We haven't clicked it, but, or brought it, but,
yeah,
one of the only teams that have it. And then just some Firewater Grass filler. When we say this, there are some teams that we're like, oh, we have a Firewater Grass core with this D and E tier mon in there, and it's like, no, that's probably not going to do anything for you. Here are some Pokemon that can actually do stuff in the C tier that you're not going to have to spend a lot of points on. Scorch and Rapidash. I think Rapidash is a little bit more well-rounded and can probably do a little bit more for you. Has good coverage, has a good speed stat, decent attack stat. Scorch I feel might be a little bit more niche in its in what team it can fit on. A little bit awkward in the speed stat and some of the other stats that it has. But ultimately, we saw this week that it can do very well. It has really good coverage, has a very good ability to set up with like Coil, things like that. So if you're looking for fire types, Scorch, Rapidash are still there. Water, we have Crawdaunt and Kingler Gmax. Crawdaunt with the adaptability, be able to kind of hit things very hard. I think it has a 50 speed stat?
55.
55 speed stat. So it's a little bit awkward, but still can kind of blow things up. And then Kingler Gmax, being able to kind of do like a Icy Wind type or Max Strike with water, I think.
Double Icy Wind, actually.
Yeah. Double Icy Wind, yeah, exactly. Can help a lot with speed control. We saw the Sadistic seniors, use this with Hypercutter too. Even though it's not great damage, at least it's consistent damage.
It's got a pretty decent attack stat, actually.
So,
it's like 125, I think.
So that's still good enough to where you can do some good stuff with it. Overall, I think Kingler is being a little bit slept on being down here in C tier. I think it can do some good stuff. Mm-hmm. You do have to waste a G-Max to kind of get the max mileage out of it.
Might be worth it.
But yeah, I mean 2 stages of speed is huge. So.
It's a good G-Max effect for sure.
And then Executor and Trevenant, just as good Trick Room users too, that are also grass types that can kind of do offensive stuff as well.
Especially in Sun.
In Sun,
you got Chlorophyll, Sleep Powder, or Hypnosis from the Executor.
Yeah, so I think Executor is a little bit slept on too. It has got good decent stats. It can still set up Trick Room. It has the sun option, like you said, and Trevenant too. I think can just be a really good Trick Room user that you can use and rely on. And grass typing is kind of hard to come by too, anyway. So
yeah, and just to be clear, there are more. We felt. We just felt like addressing the Firewater Grass filler down here because we felt like there was actually kind of a lot, at least compared to the other tiers. But there's actually more of these Firewater and Grass types down here in the C tier that you can pick from. These are just the ones we felt were generally the best. I mean, you still have for fire, you still have Flareon down here. For water, you still have Lantern if you want that dual water electric typing, which is pretty good. You have Leafeon as another grass type. There's still other stuff down here. These are just our favorites out of them. And that should do it. That's going to be the end of our suggestions for things you might want to look at in your transactions tomorrow, or perhaps today if you're watching this recording the next day. So that's going to do it for our content. But we have a couple of announcements and reminders real quick before we sign off here. First off, we've been talking about doing these postseason awards. You may have heard something about this in one of our streams, or probably actually just in the Discord. We're going to be kind of doing a video or a stream handing out awards to certain players or certain Pokemon. Maybe the most, just to give you a few examples of what we're looking for, maybe like the most improved team, or like the most valuable Pokemon, stuff like that. The most underrated successful Pokemon, or something like that. The dark horse of the season. We're looking for suggestions just for different kinds of awards or honorary mentions for either Pokemon or drafts or teams, pairs of players themselves. So let us know if you have any suggestions for categories of awards we could give out. I think I'll actually set up a Google Doc that everybody can edit. You can just throw your suggestions in there. We'll take a look at them when the time is right. That'll be more toward the end of the season, but thought I would mention it here so you guys can give us some suggestions. Number two, if any of you would like us to commentate your league matches, that's something that we're thinking about trying to get into a little bit. We're a little bit new to commentary, but we're thinking that maybe some playoff matches or finals, assuming we're not in finals, we definitely want to commentate at least that. The way that our finals match worked last season was that we just recorded everything. We didn't give any spoilers in chat. We sent it over to Alyssa and Taryn for them to do commentary over live. They went in blind. They didn't know anything about the excuse me, about the match. We uploaded it unlisted to YouTube and just sent it over to them, and they live streamed themselves commentating over it. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. If you have a really good match and you want us to commentate over it, let us know. We can't guarantee we will get to every match that you guys want us to commentate over. But given the time, if we have time for it, we definitely want to get some practice in for that. So if you have a really good match and you're thinking, hey, might like Matt and Anthony to commentate over this match, see what they think, that would be pretty cool. Then I would suggest uploading it unlisted first and sending us over a link to that match. Don't tell us what happened. We want to go in blind. I think this coming week for week 3 would be a really good time for that, because we do have a bye week, so we have a little bit of extra time compared to other weeks. Moving into transactions, Tuesday, whether you're watching this tonight or watching the recording tomorrow on Tuesday, transactions begin on Tuesday. I believe they begin at 8 a.m. PST, 11 a.m. EST. So the transactions are going to run throughout week 3 until they're finished. It's going to be just like the draft. You have an 8-hour time limit to make your transactions. If we end up skipping you, then you're going to get moved to the end. You cannot pick up any Pokemon that are being dropped this same transaction cycle. And again, this is the most important thing about transactions that I'm going to mention here. You cannot use any of your new Pokemon this week in week 3. You have to wait until week 4. Do not use your transaction Pokemon until week 4. We've already decided if anybody shows up with one of their transaction Mons in week 3 in Team Preview, I don't care if you're not even bringing it to the battle. If it's in Team Preview, you will get an auto forfeit. You will lose the game, period. We're gonna send out a ping to all of the teams, notifying them of that after the transactions have finished as well. So do not use your new Pokemon until week 4. Just wanted to get that out of the way. And with that, that should do it for our stream. So let me turn this back on so I can. There we go. So that'll do it for us. Those are our week 2 power rankings. Those are our suggestions for things to look at in transactions, and a couple of announcements and reminders for you guys. So Any final thoughts?
Good week this. I mean, besides us losing, good week this week.
Yeah,
to see some of your guys' matches, and honestly, as far as the commentating league matches, it would be a good opportunity to kind of give some, to kind of put a spotlight on some teams.
Yeah.
In other sports, they call them like national broadcasts. They'll put them on like Channel 4 or whatever, and normally that gives you a wider audience to people who don't see these things. Having us being able to commentate kind of gives it like a feeling of like, oh, this is the game of the week. Even streaming it, doing stuff like that would be cool to kind of put spotlights on certain games like that. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to being able to doing that. So if you got a good game, upload it unlisted, send it over to us. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, that'll do it for us for this week. Good luck to everybody going into week 3.
Yep.
And we'll see you next week.